Hello everybody, welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope we're doing well, and today I'll be doing a review of the brand new film Barbie, starring Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling, and directed by Greta Gerwig. And boy, oh boy, do I've got some things to say about this film. Before going any further, though, please make sure to smash that like button, loud the fire button, obviously to smash the rumble button as well. And also make sure that you are subscribed to the channel with that bell notification on. That way you know every time a video or live stream goes live on the channel. So there has been a lot of talk and discussion about this movie coming from a lot of people that have been able to see this film early, and much of it, in fact, all of it, I would say, that you've probably heard about this film so far is absolutely true, and then some. I was trying to think of a way to describe what this movie is. I was trying to think, is there a good comparison as far as other films? Like, are there similar tropes? Are there maybe similar concepts or mindsets or similar ways in which you present information that is completely inaccurate to the real world and just a complete and utter fantasy? And then I immediately thought of another film in history that dealt with a different issue, but let's just say in a very similar fashion. So I'm going to go ahead and say right now, first comment about this movie, Barbie from 2023 by Greta Gerwig is the birth of a nation of feminist movies. If you don't know what Birth of a Nation is, it is well known for being one of the most controversial films ever made for many reasons, but mostly because it portrays the black characters in the film by white actors in blackface, but also portrays all of them as unintelligent, sexually aggressive towards white women, and then also portrays the KKK in a heroic way. Basically, it is a complete and utter fantasy made by a racist mindset. We'll go ahead and fast forward to 2023, and what do we have in Barbie? We have a completely out of reality take on what the world is through a third wave radical feminist lens. So how are all the men portrayed? They're either dogs, they're either evil, like in the real world, they're all portrayed as evil. They are all simps. They are all effeminate. None of them are good. None of them can stand really on their own. And so therefore, you're left with a movie and you walk out of the movie thinking to yourself, wow, okay, is this what some people think the world is? Is this honestly what many of these so-called, and I really don't think the word feminist does them justice, because true feminism has really ultimately been lost. Which is why I think using terms like third wave feminism, modern radical feminism, there's other words that you can use for it, is probably the most accurate way to describe this film. Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach, who was the co-writer on this movie, were able to do something that I just honestly did not think was ever possible. They were able to take a major IP, especially a major toy IP, and had pretty much a home run as far as concepts were concerned, right? You have a live action adaptation of Barbie. You have all of these different things you can do. And hey, credit where credit is due. One thing that some people might walk out of this movie, if of course they're, not able to actually understand any of the dialogue that's actually being spoken, if maybe they watch the film on mute and just see all of the characters and all of the different presentations of old school Barbie doll houses and old school Barbie tropes, right? Okay. You might have some people walking out of the film saying, well, at least they had these elements. At least they were having these throwbacks to things that maybe some people grew up with. But if you're actually listening to the movie, and if you're actually watching what's going on screen, right? I remember I mentioned this in a video I did the other day about how Christian Toto in his review said, hey, guess what? Yes, they mentioned the word patriarchy 10 times. But you think about this, right? Going back to that main point, never did I think that they would be able to take a movie like this that could have been a guaranteed major blockbuster hit success. And I'm not saying the film's not going to make money at this point, though after seeing it, I really, really want this movie to fail. And you all know, I typically don't feel that way towards a lot of movies. Even if I'm very critical of a movie, very rarely do I actually desire a film to crash and burn. Do I desire a film to essentially just get lost in history, to never be seen, to never be thought of, to never be spoken of again? That's the kind of movie that this is. As I said, this is the birth of a nation for feminist movies, but the big difference is that even though Birth of a Nation is known for this controversy and is known for, again, this complete fantasy, this complete making up of a false sense of reality, which is what Greta Gerwig does with Barbie, and what they did here, at the very least, when it comes to this movie, this film is known as a landmark film. It is actually lauded for its technical virtuosity. It is, as it says right here, it is lauded for the technical prowess that it has. It was able to actually introduce concepts in film and therefore change film history forever. It influenced almost all film that followed it. However, it also completely made up facts, completely made up, not really facts, but completely made up their own fantasy of what reality was to them. And that's exactly what this film does. But the difference, as I said, Birth of a Nation, at the very least, has those technical elements that you can praise, whereas this film doesn't really have any of that. Don't get me wrong, there's definitely some moments that I do think one could find and say, okay, you know what, maybe if they had actually had a different director and an actual script that wasn't just, let me make all of the men really, really stupid, let me make all the men really evil, let me make all the men pretty much anything that's not a positive role model, and let me go ahead and just create this fantasy that you're going to have some women buying into saying, oh man, that's really how the world is today. Oh my goodness, this is so funny. And again, there were people in my theater who were laughing and eating up all of this garbage. Doesn't change the fact that it isn't based in reality. It is a complete and utter fiction. And the reason why it's so important, and the reason why I saw it, and the reason why I think it's important for people to talk about the film and to criticize the film and to be honest about the film is because the one issue that this has especially is this is a movie that does not know who its audience is. Because is this a movie for Barbie fans? If you look at the marketing says, if you love Barbie, if you hate Barbie, this is for you. Well, here's my question. Is this for Barbie fans? Well, guess what? Do they have a lot of references that Barbie fans, people that grew up with Barbie, are going to get? Absolutely. But then you also have patriarchy be mentioned 10 times. You then have men being demeaned every single moment of the film. You then also have all these random subplots. You then also, of course, have the quote-unquote non-binary trans actor trying to pretend to be a woman. Again, fantasy. Very much, again, akin to what we saw in Birth of a Nation, right? Just as back then, guess what? It was offensive and it was unrealistic for someone who was white to pretend to be someone of a different race. Guess what? We see that happening today. Now it's actually mainstreamed and it's actually supported in different ways. But that character, he was featured in the film several times, in fact. So you have those things going on. So is it really for Barbie fans? I would say, okay. Other than those moments where they're showing the Barbie dream houses and showing all these other elements, you have to then sit through a bunch of speeches about patriarchy. About at one point you have Ken singing a song where he talks about his blonde privilege. Gee, I wonder what that is supposed to be referencing. So essentially, imagine if you had a gender studies professor at a college and they were asked to write a script using the basic framework of a Barbie movie, right? A Barbie movie that would have been made for Barbie fans that people actually would have been able to go and enjoy, bring their daughters to, right? Be able to bring their families to and have a lot of fun. That's not what this movie is. Because again, it was essentially created by a gender studies professor. That is the quality, the lack of quality, I should say, of the actual script itself. And it is so derivative. It is so lacking in any sense of heart. And it tries to have this heart. It tries to have this message. And don't get me wrong, there are some moments in the movie where I think to myself, hey, this actually would have been a decent message. If you want to make a message and you want to make a film about self-image, guess what? I think that's an important thing to do. There's one point, a commercial. In fact, it may have been even the best segment of the film. And it was promoting a fake Barbie, basically. And the Barbie was supposed to be, basically, it was like Depression Barbie. And one of the commentaries that they had in it, again, it was, I think that was probably the most brilliant part of the film, was they said, well, so-and-so, she was scrolling on Instagram all day and then immediately started feeling bad about herself. And I thought to myself, you know what? That's actually a real thing that's actually happening in our world. Hey, guess what, Greta Gerwig, Noah Baumbach, you actually got something right. Unfortunately, all the other parts and all the other pieces and all the other modern day ideology that you throw into the film, much of which is not even based in reality, takes away any chance of me giving credit to the story whatsoever. Now, again, we already know the critics are lauding this movie, saying it's perfect in certain instances, saying that it's amazing. Now, many of us already knew going into this film, okay, there's definitely going to be some problems. And sure enough, they are there. As far as the acting is concerned, I think that the acting is fine, but it's cartoonish. And again, who is this movie made for? I think that question kept coming up as every moment I was watching the film when something would happen, whether it was, again, the very childish portrayal of the Barbie land itself. I'm like, okay, I could see how kids could enjoy this. But then you immediately get that hard-nosed, hardcore feminist message that only someone who is a radical feminist would enjoy or would appreciate. Okay, that's not made for kids there. So, okay, who is this made for? It almost felt like there were different creative minds behind this, and it wouldn't surprise me if maybe Mattel was maybe pulling the strings saying, okay, we appreciate your feminist message here, but we also want to make sure that we can maybe sell some toys. So the film is both critical of capitalism, but then is also clearly promoting capitalism. This film doesn't know what it wants to be. This film has no idea. And I ultimately put that when you have two indie directors, and Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach, writing a movie, and they're trying to have a mass appeal movie, guess what? This is what you get. You have a mainstream mass appeal product with these moments that are going to appeal to the masses. And you also have moments, too, where it almost felt like, okay, they thought to themselves, we're going to make this for this very, very small segment of the population, radical third wave feminist. And even though that's going to, of course, maybe, shrink the profits that we can make on this movie, because I honestly think after second weekend, especially if more and more people start to speak up and be honest about what this movie actually does, that second weekend drop-off could be catastrophic. But even if it doesn't, right? They thought to themselves, you know what? At the very least, we can have at least some type of story that can eventually help us to maybe sell some product. And it is a giant mess. And so overall, I typically don't do this, but I'm going to give this film an F. Again, it's not even that technically this film is the worst film I've ever seen, but the narrative is honestly so offensive. And I don't mean to say I was offended, but literally in the way where it completely denies reality and it perpetuates this lie. And it's a lie that has been pushed forward by so many college, gender studies professors, third wave feminist professors for decades now. And the fact that now this is in a mainstream movie using the Barbie image and the Barbie ideal as the platform to push that image, to push that agenda, to push that radical, insane agenda is just downright evil. It is just downright evil. You walk into this movie, and everyone's talked about it, the first thing you see are a bunch of girls playing with baby dolls, smashing them to bits. Basically killing the babies. And every time motherhood is mentioned, it's never mentioned as a good in and of itself. It's always saying, oh yeah, motherhood's fine, but you know what? It's not great. And it's like, okay, clearly everything in life has its positives and negatives, but they can't even have motherhood as a positive without some caveat. Without, yeah, but at one point there's even this was pregnant Barbie, she got discontinued. So there's a clear anti-life message. There's a clear anti-motherhood message. And so then all you're left with is, okay, what is the message then? And it's radical third wave feminism. It is, again, what a typical college professor teaching gender studies thinks the world is, when in reality it's not. And what some people buy into, especially when they're younger and impressionable in college, and hopefully some of them, as they get into the real world, they recognize, okay, yeah, there's definitely problems. It's definitely imperfect. There's definitely issues that come up. But you know what? Most of this stuff, not really based in reality. But the story, I think, is almost downright dangerous. So this movie's not made for kids. It's PG-13, but it's a Barbie movie. This movie should have been PG. They should have gotten someone to make an actual fun, friendly, kids family movie instead of a movie that honestly, I think, and I keep bringing it up, but this is a movie that can only ever be shown in a college classroom teaching gender studies. Like, again, who is this actually made for? Because if you are a hardcore fan of Barbie and you don't really care or, one way or the other about the feminist messaging, well, guess what? It's so prominent in there, you're going to get sick of it. You're going to say, okay, well, why is this all this nonsense? I just want to have fun. I just came to this movie to have fun, not be preached to, not have a speech given to me. So all I'm left with is to think, okay, Greta Gerwig made this for herself. And it shows very much. So yeah, solid F for this movie. And, narratively, it is probably the worst film I've seen in quite a long time. And again, I hope that this starts to stick, but this is the birth of a nation of feminist movies. Completely not based on reality. However, unlike Birth of a Nation, which at least had some technical prowess, this movie instead, I think and surely hope it ends up getting left on the cutting room floor in the minds of everyone. As I don't think this film deserves to be viewed or to be even thought of a second time or a second moment. And at the very least, hey, at least they got the fantasy part correct in the genres of this film. But those are my thoughts. Have you seen Barbie? Have you any plans to see Barbie? I imagine that many of you have not actually had any desire to go see this film, and I don't blame you. And I can at least confirm that, hey, guess what? You're not missing anything. And I know that there were people who were actually excited for this movie, because they said, hey, I really liked playing with Barbie, or I liked the concept of Barbie, right? I wanted to go to have fun. And that's how they were marketing it too. Remember, the fan events for this was Beach Party. But instead, what you're given is roughly 2 hours of nonsensical feminist messaging third wave feminist messaging specifically, that constantly puts men down. There's not a single positive male role model in this movie at all. And the only funny thing about it, honestly, other than that one clever, fake trailer for a new Barbie doll with the comment about Instagram, because I'm like, that's actually pretty accurate, is Michael Cera. Yeah, Michael Cera is, I think, the funniest part of this movie. And when he's the funniest part of your movie in a very, very small part, that speaks volumes. But let me know your thoughts about this. Anything else I mentioned in the comment section down below. If you like this video, smash that like button, like the fire button, I see smash the rumble button. And I'm sure the trolls are going to be out in the comments destroying or trying to destroy this video. So I do appreciate any love and support that you can actually give. I'm going to go be seeing Oppenheimer tomorrow, and I probably will try to watch some other movie so I can get the disgusting taste of this crap out of my mouth and out of my mind as quickly as possible. But anyway, you guys are all amazing, and video people, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and night. Movie got me speaking all over myself. Anyway, and as always, God bless. And now for a special shout out to all of my members at the Keeper of the Bifrost level and above, starting off first with my members over on Patreon: Father Luca Illich, Heimir Irie Hymason, Garrett Searles, Joe Horn, Jonathan Carney, Orange Chat Reviews, check out his YouTube channel by the same name, Laura, the Monomator General's Story, Rosetta Allen, check out her YouTube channel, Eagle Rider, and Miss Martin Muses, check out her YouTube channel by the same name as well. To my subscribe star peeps, Zion Voders, Matt317, check out his Twitch channel by the same name, Fast Reaction, The R, Mr. Roy, J-Rod, The Beer Guru, and ZK Man, who you can check out over at xtheboundaries.co. And lastly, to my locals members, Miss Minnesota Hockey Fan, How About a Hockey Player, J.H. Schwalbach, and Robert Barnes, the amazing lawyer. So thank you all very much for being my supporters at the Keep It the Bifrost level and above. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and video, go ahead and check out that top link in the video description below to find out ways to sign up to support the channel and to be able to get access to things like the shoutouts, but also to giveaways. I have an exclusive giveaways channel on my Discord server where I give away 4Ks, Blu-rays, all kinds of stuff, and also access to an exclusive podcast that I do once or twice a month, depending on what I'm able to get accomplished, especially over the course of this crazy, crazy busy summer. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless.